Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Well, all those nights when you got no lights and the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the coward by its tail. Your third fiancé didn't show. Well, sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and you're always glad they came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Well, you get out of bed and the coffee's dead. The morning isn't looking bright. You shrink right off to Europe and he doesn't even write. Your girlfriend says she's not a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Proverbs Guys Ministries, where today we are going to have the big one. No, I'm just kidding. It's a debate on the subject which should be on the screen, but not with this layout. Okay, how do I? There's no way to show you the layout, is it? Okay, so um, I am moderating this debate because I am the one that has absolutely no clue on American history. So my job is to sit back and observe, learn, and make sure everybody is respectful. That's all I'm here to do. The hard stuff are on you guys. So on our left side, that's funny. Well, on the left. On our left side, we got the lefty. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah.
And the right side, we got the righty. So that's it's as simple as that. So it's our beloved friend, our favorite atheist, and her name is Robin. I don't want to give you her last name because people are doxing people these days. And on the other side, she will be speaking for the side that says that the United States was not founded on Christian values. And on the left side, as I see it, is Stephen, Andrew, and you all know his last name. It's Bolin. And he will be defending the truth. I'm kidding. He will be defending the side that says that Christianity was based upon Christian morals. So, with that being said, what is the exact layout? You guys want to introduce yourselves? How do we do this?
Oh, we can do brief introductions, and then you can jump into the format, Achilles, with our opening statements.
Okay,
Robin, you can go first.
Hey, I'm Robin Webster. Everybody knows my last name, so all
okay, okay.
right, that's fine. I think it's on actually on the thumbnail
Username.
anyway. So,
It's on your username. Okay. Ah, yes, it is. You're right.
but everybody knows it.
Okay.
I'm defending the. It was not founded on Christianity, and I have a channel. Robin Webster is named my channel, and I'm an atheist. And thank y'all for coming.
Excellent. All right. Hi. Welcome to Proverbs Guys Ministries. I am one of your hosts here, Stephen Andrew. I am really good friends with Robin. And I want to start off by saying that she is going to probably slaughter me tonight because I know she came prepared and I did not have nearly enough time to put in enough preparation to counter all the very good arguments I know Robin's going to bring to the table. So I'm hoping that if she starts beating me too badly, we can fake a weather outage and Achilles will help cut this stream and save my face. But thanks for coming to watch this debate. And just know out there that Robin and I are friends. I consider her a very good friend. So this is going to be a fun debate.
We already have a hard question from the chat.
Can you go ahead and start marking those questions, and we can bring them up at the end, or open up the panel at the end for the Q&A?
Yeah, but I remember the whole starring comments thing. It wasn't here. Okay, it was here. So, all right. Yeah, I was joking about it's not one that we need to star for later, but yep, you got to star.
All right,
Uh,
Achilles, can you start that timer?
so the we will have this format, which is gonna be an introduction of 5 minutes each. No, that is actually the introduction that we went through. Okay, let me see if I missed something.
8 to 10 minutes.
Okay, so now we're going into the opening. Uh, okay, the layout is going to be there's going to be an opening statement from each side, which would be 8 to 10 minutes each. Well, nobody interrupts each other here and no rebuttals. And after this is done, 20 minutes in, we're gonna have the first response of each side to the other side, and it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes each. I'm not going to be that strict with times, but we'll try to keep it because I just found myself a timer. I don't know if it's going to work right. Um, then you're going to have a cross examination. We're going to have affirmative questions, and it's going to be 5 minutes. Negative questions, 5 minutes. Affirmative, negative, meaning affirmative is the side that says Christianity was based upon Christian morals, and negative is the one that says no. And then we have questions to each other, and second rebuttals, and class rounds. This is going to be fun. Let's see how that, if we're ever going to make it there. That's like, wow, long time. So let's start. And at the end, there will be closing statements, and we're. Oh, okay. I skipped the audience questions and answers. Which, if you guys want, you can throw in your questions. I will make sure to keep an eye out and star them, and so we can get the responses from each participant at the end. So that was a long introduction. Let's get to the meat of the whole thing. So I would suggest ladies first, but it's up to you guys. Whoever wants to go first.
I'm the affirmative, so I have to take the opening position.
Ah, all right. All right.
So let me know when you start the timer, and I'm ready. And
Okay.
will you let me know when we hit the 5-minute mark?
Okay. And timer starts now. Let's go.
All right. So, my defense tonight, what I have to do is I'm not trying to prove that the United States was founded as a theocracy. I think that our founding fathers overwhelmingly disagreed with the idea of a theocracy government. I do have the goal tonight, though, of proving to you that the United States was founded on Christianity. America's moral framework, legal philosophy, and cultural foundations were deeply rooted in biblical Christianity, even if the government itself was not a church. Christian moral framework laws reflected biblical ethics, human dignity, moral accountability, justice rooted in objective truth. Concepts like sin, virtue, and moral law were assumed realities. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. John Adams. I'm not seeing how to change my screen, Achilles. Here we go. I got it. Okay.
Okay.
The founders' personal beliefs. Many founders openly identified as Christian. George Washington, John Jay, Patrick Henry. Regular church attendance, prayer, proclamations in biblical language were also common. Declaration of Independence appeals explicitly to God, the Creator, a supreme judge of the world, divine providence, and rights are endowed by God, not government. Colonial foundations. Early colonies, Massachusetts, Virginia, Pennsylvania, explicitly Christian in purpose. Education, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, founded to train clergymen. According to the author Ben Hart, writing in 1988, at the time of American independence, 98.4% of American population were professing Protestant Christians. 1.4% were professing Catholic Christians. That means that 99.8% were professing Christians in America around 1776. Population of the American colonies. 1720, around 466,000 people lived in the British colonies that would become the United States. 1776, by the time of the Declaration of Independence, the population had grown to roughly 2.5 million people in the 13 colonies. This means the population increased more than fivefold over these 56 years. This shows that we didn't observe a decline in churchgoers by 1776. We just didn't see any increase with the rapid population growth. If we look at the chart, we'll see that between 1700 and 1740, 75 to 80% of the population attended church services. We see it decline rapidly at the time of 1776 down to 17%, and then we see it rapidly grow back up by the time of 1890, which was 45% church adherence, and in 1912, we see 50 to 55% increase back up. The federal government formally embedded God language more strongly in the 1950s. Congress is still overwhelmingly Christian. That's for above the Christian share of U.S. populace, it's 62%. In the 109th Congress, 2025 to 2027, 87% of voting members identified as Christian. Under God was added to the pledge in 1955. Congress amended the pledge to include Under God. The next bill on the Congress.gov. President Eisenhower's signing statement identifies it as a public law. In God We Trust required all U.S. currency by 1955 to be included. Congress passed H.R. 619 in the 84th Congress requiring the inscription of all U.S. currency. In God We Trust made the official national motto in 1956. The motto was officially declared by law, commonly cited as approved, in July 30th, 1956. Prayer is built into congressional operations, its institutional continuity since 1789. The House and Senate have elected chaplains ever since 1789, with only a brief interruption in the 1850s. House chaplain history notes daily proceedings, openings with prayer, and early Sunday service in the House chamber. The Senate's own page describes appointing a chaplain as early as in April 1789. The government's default posture has been public prayer in its proceedings from the very beginning of the constitutional era. A National Day of Prayer was established by Congress in 1952, plus annual presidential proclamations. A joint resolution signed by President Truman in 1952 established an annual National Day of Prayer. This is routinely described as a low-backed annual observance and later formalized to a specific date in 1988. This isn't just private faith. Congress created a reoccurring national religious observance, and presidents issued proclamations encouraging prayer. A modern prayer caucus exists inside Congress in its organized influence. The Congressional Prayer Caucus was founded in 2005, documented in the U.S. Senator's press release. Even in modern politics, congressional organizations explicitly exist to promote and protect prayer and religious expressions. Stats narrative. The founding era, baseline, chaplains plus prayer in Congress in 1789. Institutional. Measurable increases. 1952 to 1956, National Day of Prayer, under God motto plus the currency. Hard legislative proof of increase from the Christian foundings. Ongoing Christian dominance in government, Congress remains to this day 87% Christian as of 2025. And it's been that way since our foundation. My quick mic drop, and I'm hoping this will completely dissect Robin because I don't have any better defenses against her, really. Even today, Congress is 87% Christian. While the nation is about 62% Christian, Christianity remains overrepresentative in the lawmaking class. In the 1950s, Congress increased official God language under God in the pledge, "In God We Trust," on all currency and as the national motto. Congressional chaplains and prayer go back to 1789. That's not incidental, that's institutional. And with that, I will reserve the remainder of my time. I will pass it to Robin.
Well, there is no remainder of your time. As an introduction, I just couldn't interrupt it. But on the layout that you gave me, it says 5 to 7 minutes on the other segments. The intro says 5, and I do think it's a little short.
Um,
You
was
went on
8 to 10.
7:38. So, dear Robin, you have all the time in the world. Let's just keep it under 10 minutes. That's
Yeah, yeah, it was
that's
supposed to be in 8 to 10 minutes. I think is what the first one was supposed to be in. Like,
okay. It says 5, and I thought that was too short. I didn't want to interrupt.
no, that's good.
So, thank you in the comments for throwing the questions. I understand that a lot of people are throwing also opinions. I will try not to share opinions. Those are for the chat. But if you have a direct question, just like Aiden just did, throw them there and they'll get addressed. Dear Robin, the floor is all yours.
Okay, the question is not whether Christianity influenced American culture, nor whether many of the founders were religious men. These points are uncontested. The question is far more precise and far more important. Was this United States founded on Christianity as a governing principle? The historical record, the intellectual origins of the nation, and the text of its founding documents all lead to clear and unavoidable conclusion. The United States was not founded on Christianity, but on secular political philosophy shaped by classical antiquity and Enlightenment thought. I will demonstrate this through 4 points. First, the influence of Greek and Roman republics. Second, the decisive role of the Enlightenment. Third, the explicitly secular nature of the founding documents. And finally, how modern claims of a Christian founding are retrospective interpretations rather than historical realities. Excuse me just a second. The American system of government did not emerge from biblical governance models, but from classic republicanism. The founders studied ancient Greece and Rome not as casual readers, but as architects searching for proven political structures. From Athens, they drew the concept of civic participation, citizenship, and public debate. And from Rome, they inherited the ideals of mixed constitutions, separation of powers, checks and balances, and the rule of law. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay, writing as the Publius in the Federalist Papers, referenced Roman history repeatedly. They warned against tyranny, using Roman examples, not biblical ones. The very structure of our government, a Senate, a republic, elected representatives, veto power, and codified law, mirrors Roman political institutions. There is no equivalent model in Christian theology. Christianity offers moral teachings, not blueprints for constitutional republics. Jesus himself explicitly rejected political authority, stating, "My kingdom is not of this world." If the United States had been founded on Christianity, we would expect its institutions to reflect church governance or biblical law. Instead, they reflect pagan republics whose thinkers lived centuries before Christianity existed. The Enlightenment. The founders were children of the Enlightenment, a movement defined by skepticism of religious authority and confidence in human reason. Thinkers such as John Locke, Montesquieu, David Hume, and Voltaire profoundly shaped political thought. John Locke's alone is unmistakable. His ideals of natural rights, life, liberty, and property appear almost verbatim in the Declaration of Independence. Yet Locke's philosophy is not Christian doctrine. It is a natural law theory grounded in reason, not scripture. Locke argued that rights exist independent of any church and that government exists to protect those rights, not to enforce religious truth. Equally important is what Enlightenment thinkers rejected: the divine right of kings. State enforced religion and theological rule. Europe had spent centuries engulfed in religious wars. The founders had seen the consequences of governments claiming divine authority and they wanted no part of it. Thomas Paine, in The Age of Reason, openly criticized organized Christianity. Thomas Jefferson edited the Bible to remove all the miracles. Benjamin Franklin was a deist who doubted core doctrines of Christianity. These were not men seeking to build a Christian state, they were men seeking to build a rational one. Nowhere in the secular nation of the American founding is it clearer than in the official documents. The U.S. Constitution, the supreme law of the land, contains no references to Christianity, Jesus, or the Bible. It does not invoke divine authority beyond generic dating formula. At the end, it says, in the year of our Lord, it's on the dating. In fact, Article 6 explicitly states that no religious test will ever be required as a qualification for any office or public trust under the United States. This was revolutionary. In a world where religious tests were the norms, the founders deliberately rejected them. The First Amendment goes further, prohibiting Congress from establishing any religion at all. This is not a Christian principle, it's a secular safeguard. Christianity historically thrived under establishment in Europe, yet the founders intentionally separated church and state to protect both. Even the Treaty of Tripoli, ratified unanimously by the Senate in 1797, explicitly states the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. This was not a private letter. This was a legally binding treaty approved by the very generation that wrote the Constitution. If the United States was founded on Christianity, the statement would be unthinkable, and yet it passed without controversy. My pages, I can't turn them. Claims that the United States was founded on Christianity largely emerged long after the founding era, often during periods of cultural anxiety. In the 19th and 20th centuries, as immigration increased and religious diversity expanded, some groups sought to redefine American identity in explicitly Christian terms. But projecting modern beliefs onto historical figures is not historical analysis, it is revisionism. Yes, many founders were culturally Christian. So were most Europeans at their time, too. But cultural background is not the same as political foundation. The laws they wrote, the government they designed, and the principles they enshrined were intentionally neutral towards religion. The founders understood that tying government to any faith, even their own, would invite oppression, division, and instability. Their solution was not a Christian nation, but a pluralistic republic where belief was protected precisely because it was not enforced. In conclusion, the United States was not founded on Christianity. It was founded on classical Republican ideals drawn from Greece and Rome. It was shaped by Enlightenment reason, skepticism, and natural rights philosophy. It was codified in secular documents that reject religious authority in government, and claims to the contrast are modern interpretations, not historical facts. This does not diminish religion, it elevates freedom. The genius of the American founding lies not in establishing a faith, but in creating a system where all faiths and none can coexist under the law. That choice was deliberate, that choice was radical, and that choice is what defines the United States of America. Thank you.
Am I allowed to root for you, Robin? That was very good.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
well done. Well, the timer didn't
And I,
start 2 minutes in. I actually started 2 minutes in. So
and I
you,
didn't change my slides any, so you don't worry about my slides. I don't know why I bothered with them.
okay, you pretty much went on 7 minutes too. But okay, so I loved both of your intros, guys. For me, that I'm not American, this is a lot to think of, and I will go back and rehear both of your statements because I love learning stuff and both sides of them. That's even better way to learn stuff. So now we go to the rebuttals, which should be again 5 to 7 minutes, but we're not that strict with time. We're not going to kick you out if you go over them. I will just throw some warnings on the maybe 5 minute mark. I'll give you a warning, and you have another 2 minutes to complete what you were on. All
So
right.
I go first on this, right?
If you don't want to take a break because you were just
Yeah,
talking,
but I
I
think
I
like
believe you do, Robin. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I think I go first on this one.
I don't understand why, but if you guys agree, it's okay for with me. Go first.
Because Stephen, like he just took his notes, like from my main argument, so like he hasn't had a chance to. Um, but now, how can can I change my slide?
Yeah, you
Well,
should just be able to, on whatever program you're using, change it, Robin.
all right, but by the time you get this, I'm bringing my coffee in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I don't.
Like, what do you have your slides pulled up on?
Okay, wait a minute. Um,
There you go. You changed it.
okay. All right. Stephen brought up the that the United States was founded on Christianity. Okay, and it had moral, cultural, and legal basis. Okay, that actually, like I said, the Constitution has no mention of God, Jesus, or Christianity. Yes, the Declaration of Independence did mention had four mentions to divinity. None of them were of Jesus. None of them were of the biblical God, or the word Christianity does not appear in there. There is the God of nature, divine providence, and two more mentions that are kind of just um, like I said, there are mentions about divinity. I can't remember what the other two exactly say, but none of them mention God, Jesus, or Christianity, except for the God of nature. Um, the Constitution grounds our authority in we the people, not God. So, like, and there's no sin in government. We don't have sin in government. We have laws that, like most of the laws, violate somebody. If it's a law against you violating someone else's rights, like it's not a, you know, we don't have blaspheme laws. We got rid of the blaspheme laws, or most of them should be gone. We've eliminated most Sunday laws. Um, it's not required to tithe to the church. It's not required to attend church. It's not. We. I mean. So, and of course, the existence of us out and loud atheists show that um, it's not against the law to speak out against God. Um, yes, John Adams did say that there's founded for moral and religious people, and I will explain that somewhat. Our founders were somewhat, I want to say, they 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 were well educated, most of them. George Washington wasn't classically educated, but he actually caught on to that ideal pretty quick, and so they were they thought that everybody needed to be either educated or religious to have morals. That's just they thought that the common man did not was not well studied enough to understand philosophy of morality and government. George Washington did go to church. He was a Christian, and when his preacher gave a sermon about him, because he always left before they took communion, he never went back. He never attended church again the rest of his presidency, because he did not believe in the supernatural parts of the religion. But they, like a lot of our founders, were accepted. They did not accept the Trinity. They did not accept the biblical infallibility, and they did not accept the church authority. They thought the only way to find God was to study nature through reason. Um, yes, the colonists mostly were Christians. Yes, like most of the countries that are the majority of our colonists came from were Christian countries. They were Christian countries who like forced religious belief. Like the England had the Church of the Anglican Church of England. France and in Spain and them were the Catholic Church, and there had been a lot of bloodshed in the years previous to the founding of our country, for over 1,000 years between those just separate religions. Just not even a separate religion, separate sects of one religion. And the same thing happened in the colonies. We had Puritans who burnt Quakers alive at the stake in Massachusetts. So, like, this is one of the things that our founders wanted to not happen here, which is one reason why the idea of Christian taking over our government right now is really scary. Because even if you are a Christian, if one dominant part of Christianity is the one that becomes the domination of the government, then they will persecute, as we've seen throughout history. They will persecute the minority sects of your same religion. It happens over and over. We see it on here on YouTube, all the fighting that happens between this and that one. Just imagine when one of them gets control over the law, what that would be like. Um, and let's see, he mentioned congressional prayer. Um, George Washington had a national prayer, and John Adams, when he had that, Thomas Jefferson eliminated the National Day of Prayer while in his presidency, and it did not come back until I think 1952. But um, probably had some declarations of that going on in the Civil War after Jefferson from the because at times of great stress on our nation is when our leaders usually look to religious. Um,
We've gone past 5 minutes. I
yes, I'm
didn't want to
done.
interrupt you.
I'm
Okay, I
done.
didn't want to interrupt you for that.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stop sharing. Okay, I don't need to share anymore. Okay,
Oh,
I'm done.
Robin, if you had more to share, I don't mind if you go over.
No, I was just going through them things. I was trying to just see if I could hit as many of the points you made, but it's your turn. I'm good.
Okay, my turn for rebuttal.
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Starting counter.
you got it, Achilles.
Yep. Let's go.
All right, arguments the negative side will use, and I came up with this, mind you, before I did this debate with Robin, so I want to see how accurate I was. Also, let's see here. There we go. All right. Um, Only 17% of Americans in in 1776 were Christian. If America was founded on Christianity, why were only 17% church members in 1776? That number is church membership, not belief or cultural Christianity. Membership required public confessions, discipline, tithing, and moral scrutiny. Modern self-identified Christians doesn't equal 18th century membership. Government institutions were already Christian normed: chaplains in Congress, public prayer in legislators, Bible-based moral law. Low membership doesn't equal secular values, it means high standards. The Constitution is a godless document. The Constitution never mentions God or Jesus. The Constitution is a limiting document, not a worldview statement. It assumes pre-existing moral law. The Declaration already grounded rights in God. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people, John Adams. It is impossible to rightly govern the world without God in the Bible, George Washington. We have staked the whole future of American civilization not upon the power of government, but upon the capacity of each of us to govern ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God. James Madison. God governs in the affairs of men, and if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, it is probable that an empire can rise without his aid. Benjamin Franklin. The foundation of our republic is religion. The foundation of religion is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Roger Sherman. Many founders were deists, not Christians. They'll point to men like Franklin, Jefferson, and Madison. Even deist-leaning founders used Christian moral categories, supported public religion, and endorsed Bible use in education. A culture can be Christian even if its elites argue theology. They'll often point out the Treaty of Tripoli. It proves America wasn't Christian. They love the quote, "The U.S. is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." 1, it was a diplomatic treaty, not a constitutional definition. 2, it was written to reassure Muslim powers. And 3, not debated or ratified as a worldview statement, just like everything or in many cases nothing President Trump says represents the United States beliefs. A foreign policy letter doesn't rewrite domestic reality. The separation of church and state. How they'll argue it. They'll use the Jefferson letters and modern Supreme Court interpretations. It meant no state-run church, no forced belief. It did not mean no religion in public life, no God in government language. Evidence they can't escape. Congressional chaplains, National Day of Prayer, under God, and God we trust. Separation was about protection of the church, not removal of God. Christian influence increased later, not at the founding. Most religious language comes from the 1950s. Yes, that proves my point. The culture kept reasserting God language. Christianity wasn't rejected, it was reaffirmed. A secular nation wouldn't keep re-adding God. America was pluralistic, not Christian. Your counter, pluralism, equals relativism. All denominations were Christian, shared Bible, shared moral law. Pluralism existed inside of Christianity. The big trap, trying to prove America was a theocracy. And I will not fall for it, Robin Webster. Theocracy. Authority comes directly from God, thought. Clergy, religious law, divine rulers, leaders claim to speak for God, founded on Christianity, rather, which is what America was. Authority comes from the people. Moral law is informed by Christian worldview, not dictated by clergy. Leaders are accountable to law and constitution, not divine office. Role of religious leaders. In a theocracy, clergy rule the state, religious officials hold political power, And church and government are institutionally merged. That's what we had with the Church of England. That's what our founders were desperate to escape. And rather, when you have it founded on Christianity, you have clergy hold no governing authority. Religious leaders may advise or influence culture, but cannot rule. And government officials are civil, not ecclesiastical. Religious law versus civil law. In a theocracy, religious law is the law. Example, Sharia canon law, Mosaic civil code. Violators are sins and crimes, or violations are sins and crimes, rather. When you have it founded on Christianity, civil law reflects Christian moral principles, human dignity, justice, restraint of evil. Biblical law is not legally enforced, no punishment for heresy or unbelief, which I think we both agree with.
We're past
Now,
6th minute.
okay, well, I'll go ahead and stop. I'm not sure how many more I had. I think I only had 2 more slides, but I'll stop here. I was going to get into the federal Sabbath laws, but I think Robin, it's your turn.
I mean, I don't care if you go on, Stephen.
That's all right. I'll keep it fair, Robin.
I mean, it's fair. You're not cutting me off. You've not been cutting me off. Okay, so are we going to what, the Q&A like thing now? Is that
Yeah,
right?
what's the format, Achilles?
Okay, so now there's a cross-examination
Yeah. Okay.
where each side wants to try to expose a weakness in the other side's arguments and clarify if they said something and they want to clarify it. So this is your time to do it. And this one is a little shorter. It should be around 5 minutes each. Unless you guys want to go, I'll just tell you where the 5 minutes are. That's all. All right.
Do you want to go? You want me to go first, Stephen?
Yeah, I think it's yours to go first.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Let's go.
You mentioned the Treaty of Tripoli.
Mhm.
Do you, do you recognize that the Treaty of Tripoli was actually like written by the same? It was like written at the time by the that the people who were part of the Constitution, like the founding of the Constitution. It wasn't a letter; it was a legally binding um, thing. So, do you think that they would have said, writ, like told, put that in writing if they didn't believe that it was not founded on Christianity?
I think to answer your question, you have to look at what's happening culturally in the world. So at the time, we have an issue with Muslim pirates, and we do not have a capable enough navy to go up against the Muslim world after shortly coming out of the revolution. And it's very beneficial at that moment to play politics. And because we were never officially set up as a Christian theocracy, distance ourselves in that way to reassure the Muslims that we're not going to come to war with you, stop stealing our ships.
So you're saying that John Adams intentionally was deceptive with his language?
I would say so. And we see this example with men like George Washington, who was known for never telling lies. He had a lot of deceptive practices, especially with his spy network.
Well, I mean, the actually we know where the George Washington stuff came from, like the Wiener, Weems. His name was Weems, and he's the one that created those chopping down the cherry tree story, and he also was the one that was responsible for the great big painting of George Washington kneeled down at Valley Forge praying when George Washington's lifelong pastor said that he never knelt and prayed, like that he always stood during prayer. So Weems, we can thank Weems for all of that kind of stuff right there. He created a lot of myth. He was a big myth builder. All right, I just want to know, like the First Amendment um, allows us freedom of religion, which means that um, I could worship Zeus or any other god, and I'm not. And the Ten Commandments, like what are the first three Ten Commandments? That doesn't the first amendment violate the one of the first commandments?
To not have any gods before God?
Yeah, I mean, like,
How does that violate? I don't understand what.
well, I
How
mean, like,
would the? Can you explain to me how the First Amendment would violate not to have any gods before the one true God?
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like, if I don't worship that God law, then I'm definitely putting. If I worship Zeus, which I don't worship gods, but say I worship Zeus, then I would be actually violating that Ten Commandment, one of the Ten Commandments.
Right, but you're looking at a founding document versus like a church creed.
Yes, a biblical. Yes, that's what I
No,
mean though. Like, I
no, I
understand.
don't. I don't see them as conflicting because you, as an atheist, you reject God altogether. However, you don't have any gods before Him, so you're submitting to that even in your rebellion. That's what I would say.
Okay, well, I consider my cats are gods, so I have four. Um,
Okay,
um,
different story then.
yeah, yeah, okay, but so like, and also in like you're not allowed to question authority either in the in biblical, ideal principles. You're not allowed to question authority, um, and that's exactly what the First Amendment allows too. Is for us to protest against the authority, and then one more thing. Let's see. The language. Okay, what biblical language is used in the founding document, the Constitution? I mean, the Declaration of Independence is not actually a founding document. It was a notification to England that we were dissolving our relationship with them, but it doesn't found. Like, we had a document in between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution called the Articles of Federation, and so the Declaration of Independence, it was not a found. It didn't found anything. It just separated us from England. So, what in the Constitution? Um, what biblical language is in there?
So to be honest with you, not to be crude, I think we're comparing Samsung to Charmin Ultra. They're totally different categories, right? One is for entertainment, the other is to keep your butt clean. And we see this with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They serve completely different purposes. So we see in the Declaration of Independence that it is because of the Creator God we have this authority and moral obligation to seek freedom and to be a free people who can govern ourselves and get away from the Church of England. And the Constitution is about framing law. And there was a lot of debate whether or not our Constitution should even be solely based off of the Ten Commandments. It obviously lost the debate, but it was that contentious of a point that we would almost make that law out of the Ten Commandments. But we didn't really need to do that because at a time where 98% of the population, whether they were churchgoers or not, was culturally Christian, we all already agreed on the Ten Commandments, and it wasn't necessary in a Christian founded nation to then make Christian laws we already agreed on.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a source on that information about
I
the
gave it in my opening statement, so I can't pull up my slide right now, but if you go back and watch this debate, it's in my opening statement.
okay, because I have a lot of these books, so I have the minutes to the Constitutional Convention. I don't have it here. It's in my library up front, but like there is they started to the very first day that they met. They took a poll or whatever, a vote on whether they should open every meeting with prayer, and it was unanimously voted down. And they did have one guy one time that was that came in and they let him lead prayer, and he ended up being like a person who actually um, went back to the British, was loyal, stayed loyal to the British, and was exiled. So
Now, why do you think? Well, I can't ask questions yet. Go ahead. I'm
okay,
sorry. Go ahead.
that's all I got. That's all I got.
Okay, that's it for you.
Yeah.
And I was muted and I was in the chat, but we've been at 7 minutes and 27, 8, 9. So it's good. We can go to the other side now. And Steven, your turn.
Okay, so a couple random questions for you. Is your position that a nation is either a theocracy or entirely secular?
Um, I mean, like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, I'm not like we're not talking about the people. I'm talking about the foundation of the government, like Congress. Yes, most of them are Christians. I mean, like, um, even
Right,
though
but is it your opinion that a government has to either be a theocracy or entirely secular?
no, no, like England right now is a constitutional monarchy.
Okay, then
Uh,
that could be considered conceding to a Christian foundation without a theocracy.
even
Um,
though that, but yeah, they're actually their percentage of population that is actually Christian is probably lower than ours.
okay.
I
Um,
think.
are you aware that multiple colonies' charters explicitly reference Christianity and Jesus Christ?
Yes, yes, I am. Like even after they became states, there was many of them that great maintained a state religion until um, it was until like some Supreme Court decisions. But that was one of the problems was our founders actually saw like I said, by go in Massachusetts, the Puritans were in charge, and so they burnt Quakers at the stake for heresy.
Do you deny that the Virginia Charter in 1606 and the Massachusetts Bay Charter of 1629 explicitly state the propagation of Christianity as a founding purpose?
No, and you know in 16, what year did you say that that was like the United that was not a United States though.
It was 1606 and 1629.
Yeah, like we didn't the Constitution we didn't become the United States till the Constitution was ratified in 1789.
Correct. This helps build up the narrative, though, and it builds up the culture. How about the founders' intent? Do you believe the intentions of the people who founded and governed the colonies are irrelevant to whether those colonies were founded on Christian principles?
The founding of the colonies.
Correct. It's
Um,
all connected.
well, yeah, I think probably the people who founded the colonies first of all were dead by the time our Constitution went through, because like you know we know that those a lot of those colonies were founded in the 1600s. But like as far as the United States of America as a federal, you know, government, yeah, I mean, once those colonies voted to become a state in our federal government and they ratified the Constitution, then they gave up all of their previous positions to become a state in the United States of America.
Thank you. Were the earliest American colleges, Harvard, Yale, and even Princeton, founded to train ministers? Yes or no?
Probably, yeah. I think all of them still probably have a theological school too. Like,
Well, if education was foundational and education was explicitly Christian, then how is it that not a Christian foundation?
well, my cat stepped on my phone for something. And I don't know
Uh,
how to get it.
that's okay.
Now what again? I say it again because I was.
Yeah. So if education was foundational and education was explicitly Christian, how is it that not a Christian foundation?
I don't know that it was explicitly Christian. I mean, like
The
most.
Harvard's original laws required students to quote know God and Jesus Christ.
Okay, well, I mean, like Harvard is not a state-run in, higher educate, you know, institute of educate higher learning. Like it is a privately, you know, run. It's not a government entity. Um,
Hmm. All
and
right. Do laws require a moral foundation? Yes or no?
more, no, I don't think so. No, no, I don't think that laws are not about morality. Laws are about restraining, either restraining the government from violating our rights or restraining citizens from harming, causing harm to another citizen or their rights.
Okay. In colonial America, what moral framework informed laws against murder, theft, perjury, and even blasphemy? You mentioned the blaspheming laws, which some are still on the books as of very late.
but they can't enforce them. Like the Supreme Court has ruled already. They just haven't removed them because it's
That's a much later ruling though. These were on the books for a long time before that ruling.
yes,
So this was the culture and the belief held by the whole country. In each of the colonies, they had these blaspheme laws and their blue Sabbaths.
yeah. Like I said, the colonies once they gave up, once they the colonies, like not all the colonies were on board with necessarily everything that exactly the way the founders of the Constitution were, but they ratified it, so they agreed to what the principles under this are. And you brought up you brought up somebody a while ago about that. Um,
Well, can
Now I can't think of what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought.
do you deny that the Sabbath laws, blasphemy laws, and adultery laws existed across the colonies?
No, no, they did across the colonies, and they did probably in some of the states, and probably like you said, I think blasphemy laws are still on like record in some states because they
And do you
like they
think
had to go
those
back and remove them and pass another law to take them off.
do you
But
think those laws derive from enlightenment and deism, or do you think from biblical morality?
no, I don't think that our colonies were founded on deism or natural rights or anything. I think our founding fathers reached out and pulled that in to be the basis of our government. And like all of these ideals existed in our ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and those places had their problems. Eventually both of them did, but they had a better foundation of government than what we had been living under for people. They were both pagan. I mean, they were both pagan at one time. Rome was pagan. Of course, it went Christian later, but at the time that when it was like dominating the world, it was a pagan nation, like a pagan, and it was a plural nation, so it was like huge, and it was very diverse across places, and that's what our founders were looking for was something that would allow a diversity of the population and would allow to be able to keep peace because they did not
Okay,
religious.
I, I'm so sorry. I've got two more questions I would love for you
Okay,
to answer.
Okay, if
Um,
that's okay with Robin though, because we are past the 7th minute, we're going into the
oh,
eighth.
okay, it's okay. We'll
that's
stop there
fine.
then.
That's
I've
fine.
actually been waiting for Robin to finish her statement to jump in and say that because I knew it would interrupt her train of thought, so I didn't.
I want to keep it fair, Robin. I don't want to have any bias at all.
It's not. It's fair. Go ahead. I want to hear them.
Okay, so my last two questions for you is the Declaration references God four times. Do you believe this to be accidental language?
No, I mentioned earlier that it mentions the divinity, like divinity, four times. It does not mention the biblical God. It does not mention Jesus. It does not mention the Bible. It mentions the law, the God of nature. It mentions divine providence, and somewhere I have the other two, what the wording is on them,
Well,
it does
which
not.
creator endows rights? You know,
Okay,
which supreme judge is invoked? And
it says yeah.
this
Okay,
is not consistent with deism or biblical theism.
Yes, deism actually do believe in a creator. Like I just like to point out that Charles Darwin had not published his books yet on the theory of evolution, and so even the even the scientific founders we had believed that there was a creator, but their ideal was that this God, what the only way you could come to know this God was through studying nature. This was the only because so that's what they believed. They did not believe in revelation. This is one reason why, like so many of the founders were so against Christianity and Islam because of the revelation part of it. They did not believe that God had came down and revealed to men anything about His nature. They thought that the only way that you could find anything about the true God or the true creator of man was through nature, by the study of nature.
All
Um,
right. And my last question for you, if you don't mind.
mhm.
If Christianity shaped America's charters, laws, education, morality, and public rhetoric, what category would you place that influence in if not foundational?
Um, I think Christianity would be more foundational in the population than the actual founding documents. Um, I think that even if even if everybody right now was if everybody became atheists, the whole country was to become atheists, I think that we could still have the exact same foundation for our government with no belief at all. And so, if it was founded on Christianity, it to me it would make sense that most people, at least, would have to believe in Christianity for that to be actually considered a foundation. And
Well, then just to be clear, through my line of questioning, you've conceded Christian intent, Christian education, Christian morality, and Christian public language, yet deny a Christian foundation. And at that point, the disagreement is really just semantic, not historical.
that's your opinion. No.
It's probably not
which,
the correct one.
which, which that statement could be considered part of the next part, which is going to be the second rebuttals, and aka the class round. So, with what Steven said, I would think that you, Robin, could go right ahead, but I don't know. It's up to you guys.
I can go if you want me to. I was gonna read. Stephen mentioned the Supreme Court a while ago earlier, and I was gonna mention some of the cases where the Supreme Court has upheld the the ideals of the separation of church and state. Now, these cases did come later in the 20th century, um, because I think that the closer we were to the founding, the less this mattered to people. I think that people were fine with this. I think that right before the Civil War is when this became such a tumultic discussion, because um, at times of great strife in nations, they like to bring everybody together through religion, and it became and then there became a big division, of course, in the Civil War between different sects of Christianity because of the ideal of slavery, because we had slaves, we had people on both Christians on both sides of that issue. But we had a wall of separation case that was Everson versus Board of Education. That was in 1947, which upheld um, that there could not be that government cannot pass laws that aid one religion and all religions, or prefer one religion over another. Then there's no school led prayer, which is Engel versus Vital in 1962. Um, just said that they cannot students can actually have prayer. They can have prayer, but they cannot be led by any of the school um, during school time. And the Lemon Test said that the laws must have a secular purpose, neither advance nor inhibit religion, not result in excessive entanglement between government. That is such a great, well, very vague thing there. That the Lemon Test, I think. And then, of course, the Ten Commandments was right here in my state of Kentucky. It was up on the state capitol, and the Supreme Court in 1980 ruled that it was unconstitutional to have it up there. Um, Benjamin Franklin, you talking about the motto earlier? Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams created the original motto, which was E pluribus unum, which was out of many one. In God We Trust was put on the coinage in the during the Civil War, and in the currency during the 1950s when the godless communists were one of the biggest fears we had. And now I'm going to read. I'm just going to read a couple of quotes. I have 5 quotes from our founders. I hate to quote mine, but these are. I specifically picked these because they do not attack Christianity, and I did not, because that's not what I came to do. Strongly guarded is separation between religion and government in the Constitution of the United States. The danger of encroachment by ecclesiastical bodies may be illustrated by presidents already furnished in their short history: James Madison, It's in his detached memorando, and he's talking about what I was talking about, the Puritans burning the Quakers and things. Every new and successful example, therefore, of the perfect separation between the ecclesiastical and civil matters is of importance, and I have no doubt that every new example will succeed, as every past one has done, in showing that religion and government will both exist in greater purity the less they are mixed together. And this comes from James Madison, too. Christianity neither is nor ever was part of the common law, and this is from Thomas Jefferson in 1829. And it's in his reports of cases determined in the General Court of Virginia. I've got I have, if you want them, I have all the sources for these quotes. No man shall be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever. That was another Thomas Jefferson. And then we have abundant reason to rejoice in this land. The light of truth and reason has trumped over the power of bigotry. In this enlightened age and in this land of equal liberty, it is our boast that a man's religious tenets will not forfeit the protection of the law, nor deprive him of the right of attaining and holding the highest offices that are known in the United States. And that is from George Washington. I'm done.
Okay, less than 5 minutes. Good stuff. And Stephen, it's your turn.
This is my second rebuttal.
Yep.
All
And
right.
starting now.
So at this point in the debate, I think that we can all agree none of you have yet heard Robin's closing statements. And some of you may say that's because we have not yet arrived to that point in the debate. I say it's because I'm winning. Now, at this stage in the debate, notice what has not happened. The negative side has not shown a single founding era example where Christianity was rejected as a moral foundation. They have not produced a single document where the founders argued for moral relativism. They have not demonstrated a secular vision replacing Christianity at the nation's birth. Instead, they've relied on category errors and modern assumptions. They keep confusing not a theocracy with not Christian. But no one here has argued America was a theocracy because the founders themselves rejected that model precisely because of Christian convictions about conscious and coerced faith. Christianity does not require forced faith. Christianity rejects state-controlled religion. This is not evidence against Christian foundations. It is evidence for them. The point to the Constitution is Constitution structure and say, see, it's secular. But constitutions don't create morality. They assume it. The Declaration already grounded rights in a creator. The Constitution simply asked, how do we restrain power among a people who already believe that? They cite pluralism, but pluralism existed inside Christianity, not outside of it. The colonies didn't debate whether morality came from God. They debated which Christian tradition best reflected it. They referenced later increase in God language and say Christianity must not have been foundational, but that argument collapses on itself. A nation that was truly secular at its founding does not keep re-adding God to public life. It removes him. Instead, across generations, Americans reaffirmed what was already assumed. Prayer, chaplains, public appeals to God, moral law rooted in Scripture. And when we go even earlier, before independence, before constitutions, before revolutions, we encounter the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims did not arrive seeking enlightenment neutrally. They did not claim moral autonomy from God. They declared openly that they came for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. That matters because nations are shaped first by worldview, not paperwork. Finally, look at what America chose to remember. Nations moralize what they honor, and Americans engraved scripture, commandments, and prayer, not secular manifestos, into its earliest monuments and public spaces. That is not coincidence, that is confession. The negative side wants Christianity to be incidental, But incidental things do not shape law, education, morality, culture, and national memory for centuries. America was not founded to enforce belief. It was founded on a Christian moral vision, one that understood liberty, dignity, justice, and accountability as gifts from God, not grants from government. That vision didn't disappear at the founding. It made the founding possible, and no amount of modern revision can erase that. I close.
Okay, so that's 4 minutes almost. Okay, stop. Okay,
Eat
I
that,
started.
Robin.
Now, Robin, your turn for uh, this second rebuttal, I guess.
I
We
already did
do.
mine. I already did mine. I think
Oh, yeah, you started. Okay.
we're supposed to do like if there's any questions from the audience. I think right now.
Okay, so this is what this text here says. Unless you guys have another idea, well, you want to go back and forth or something.
So for right now, also, you can start reading us questions, Achilles, but I'm going to put the link in the chat on Proverbs, guys. So if
Okay.
you want to come in, you can field them out, Achilles. Keep them in the back. And Robin, go ahead and in the bottom left-hand corner, it says listen off stage feeds. Go ahead and switch that toggle switch to off. That way
Okay.
you don't hear people talking in the back.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and read our closing statements then before we start bringing people in?
That's up to you. You're the
Yeah, I
guest of
mean
honor.
that seems like it would be better. That like because once we get started on that, then we'd have to kick them out.
Or yeah,
Okay.
it might escalate to a lot of people having a lot of stuff to say, so the closing statements might not find the time to be thrown in. So I agree with Robin. It's best to do them now.
Okay.
All right. So who
While
goes first?
I think I
while
go.
people come in, just for anybody that comes in, I'm gonna keep you backstage until they both are done with their closing statements. So who wants to go first?
And
I think I
Robin, do
yeah. I
you
think
have
I
slides to put up for this?
no,
Okay.
and I think I go first on this one. Like
Okay, and
yeah.
you have 5 minutes, but we're not gonna be strict. We're not gonna throw you out if you
This
exceed
should
it.
be 5 minutes.
All right, go ahead, dear.
I timed it anyway.
Let's go.
As we conclude this debate, the question before us remains simple, even it is often made emotional. Was the United States founded on Christianity? Not whether Christianity influenced individual Americans, not whether faith has played a role in our history, but whether Christianity was the foundation of our system of government. Based on the evidence, the answer is clearly no. We have shown that the architecture of American government did not come from a Bible or church doctrine, but from classical republicanism. The founders looked to Greece and Rome for lessons on how republics rise and fall, how power corrupts, and how liberty is preserved. They borrowed senates, representative assemblies, checks, balances, and the rule of law, concept developed centuries before Christianity existed. If this were a Christian founding, we would expect biblical governance. Instead, we see Roman political engineering. We have also shown that the intellectual engine of the American Revolution was the Enlightenment, not religious revival. The founders were steeped in the works of Locke, Montesquieu, and other Enlightenment thinkers who emphasized reason, natural rights, and skepticism of authority, especially religious authority. These ideals rejected. My cat is scratching the crap out of me. Scratch question rejected that governments ruled by divine command. They insisted that legitimacy comes from the consent of the governed. The principle is philosophical, not theological. When we turn to the founding documents themselves, the case becomes undeniable. The Constitution does not mention Christianity. It does not invoke Jesus Christ. It does not cite Scripture. Instead, it explicitly bans religious tests for office and forbids the establishment of any religion. These are not accidental omissions, they are deliberate choices made by people who understood the dangers of merging faith with state power. And when the generation that wrote the Constitution stated in an official treaty ratified by the Senate, unanimously, by the way, that the United States was not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, they were not speculating, they were defining their own government. Finally, we address the modern claim that America was founded as a Christian nation. This argument is not grounded in 18th century evidence, but in later cultural movements seeking to reshape national identity. It relies on selectively quoting religious expressions while ignoring the legal and structural reality of the government the founders actually built. History is not determined by what we wish was true. It's determined by documents, actions, and intent. And those records show that the founders deliberately created a secular republic, one strong enough to protect religion, precisely because it does not enforce it. This distinction matters. If America were founded on Christianity, faith would be a requirement of citizenship, but it's not. If it were founded on Christianity, government authority would derive from religious doctrine, but it does not. If it were founded on Christianity, dissenting beliefs would be a threat. Instead, they are a right. The United States was founded not to elevate one faith above others, but to ensure liberty of conscience for all. That principle is not anti religious, it is pro freedom. For these let's see, that's it. I'm sorry, that's all. I got my papers messed up. I'm done.
Okay. Stephen, your turn. Let me stop this, and here we go.
All
Floor is yours.
right. So here we go. Let me move this up here. Okay. My closing statements. This is where I plan on winning the show. Just kidding, Robin. I'm still going to lose. All right. I'm taller and stronger than my opponent, so I must be correct. I want to start by saying that.
Classics, the classics, man.
Right. When we ask whether America was founded on Christianity, we are not asking whether the United States created a church, enforced baptism, or ruled as a theocracy. That is a straw man, and one the founders themselves rejected. We are asking something far more basic, and even I cannot answer it. What moral vision gave birth to this nation? Before there was a constitution, before there was a Congress, before there was a Supreme Court, there were the Pilgrims. And they did not come here for commerce, conquest, or secular experimentation. They came for the freedom to live under God according to conscience. In 1620, the Pilgrims drafted the Mayflower Compact, explicitly declaring that their voyage was undertaken for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. That document is not peripheral, it is foundational. It established covenantal self-government grounded in Christian purpose. From there, colonial charters openly referenced Jesus Christ. Early universities were founded to train ministers. Laws assumed biblical morality. Education assumed scripture. Public life assumed God. The Virginia Charter of 1606, to make habitation and propagation of Christian religion to such people as yet live in darkness and miserable ignorance of true knowledge and worship of God. And the source was the Charter of Virginia 1606. Similarly, the same language was used in Massachusetts Bay Charter of 1629 and the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut in 1639. Early universities were founded to train ministers. Harvard College, Harvard's original mission, let every student be plainly instructed and earnestly pressed to consider well the main end of his life and study is to know God and Jesus Christ. Yale, youth may be instructed in the arts and sciences who through the blessing of Almighty God may be fitted for the public employment. Okay, and then Princeton, founded explicitly by Presbyterians to train ministers. Now, those monuments are not accidental. And when America later memorialized itself in stone, When it chose what to remember and what to honor, what did it carve? Not Enlightenment slogans, not secular manifestos, but Scripture. The Ten Commandments engraved at courthouses, biblical language etched into early state law seals, prayer opening legislative sessions since 1789. These monuments are not accidental. Nations do not memorialize what they reject. The Constitution did not create America's values, it presupposed them. It was a restraint on power written for a people already formed by Christian moral assumptions. As John Adams stated plainly, it was made only for moral and religious people. And tonight, after every argument and counter argument, the question remains simple. If America was not founded on Christianity, why were its earliest settlers explicitly Christian in purpose? Why were its moral assumptions biblical? Why did its laws, education, and public life presume God rather than exclude him? A secular nation does not begin with prayer. A godless nation does not ground rights in a creator. And a people who rejected Christianity would not repeatedly reaffirm God in their institutions across generations. America was not founded as a church, but it was founded on Christian soil by Christian people with Christian assumptions about truth, morality, and human dignity. That is not nostalgia, that is history, and history speaks for itself. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have somebody backstage. I do have questions. They came a little earlier, and then the chat got a little heated among one another. But I also tried to. I just went back now, trying to get some statements. Now I didn't get them all, but if we have time, we can go. Okay, so ASIMS that was here is having audio issues. Come on, Eve Max, help us out here. So he will come back. Until he does, there's another thing with this with Emacs. Doesn't have a separate tab for the star comments, so we have to like scroll and find them manually, which is awesome. Thank you so much for starting them. And I will begin with one that does. Okay. Some of them are so clearly biased, which
Well,
and they don't have even a question mark. So
we kind of figured that was. I mean, like, I think we both knew that there was going to be a little bias from each.
yeah, of course. But at least if you want to be biased and you want your question to come in, at least throw a question mark at the end. Like, don't make it a statement. So at least let's throw this one on. It is a bit biased, but still respectful, and people can give an answer. So, if America is founded on Christianity, says our brother Aiden, our third favorite atheist around here, the second is BBM, the first one is Robin. What form of Christianity? We're going to have a competition on this, actually. We should. What form of Christianity would that be? Does it attempt to adhere to any particular denomination or just general Christian principles?
Is that question for me or Robin?
Yeah, I bet it was.
All right.
Even.
I think I'll take this one, Robin, if you don't mind.
You go ahead.
So he wants to know, if America's founded on Christianity, what form of Christianity would that be? I would say that Christianity goes beyond denominations. Christianity is really based off of confessing with your mouth and believing in your heart that the Lord died for your sins and rose from the dead. That's Christianity. That's something that Pentecostals, Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, Catholics, and Orthodox all agree on. That's Christianity. And I would say that's the Christianity that America was founded on. Thank you.
Can I answer too?
Yes, of course.
I think that the founders looked at the same issue right there, and they decided that was probably the source of like a lot of violence in the history of the world and history of even our colonies, and they rejected the ideal of Christianity as a foundation for the government based on that right there. Is because um, there's so much interpretation to what they considered revelation. That
Okay. Um, I agree with both. At least on this one, I do think
I
it is.
agree with both.
Yeah, because there's truth in both. Like the pilgrims were running from the past, so Anyway, I think that you're both gonna love the next one. It's not so much on topic, but you would love to answer it. So whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I can do this. I know which one mine is. Mine is John Adams, my favorite founding father. I used to probably have a little different. I used to be Thomas Paine. I really like Thomas Paine too, though. But since Thomas Paine was not actually an American citizen and never did become president or anything, and I have a lot more of John Adams's writings now, and I like John Adams. He never owned a slave. He was an abolitionist all of his whole life, and I think that he was very wise. And I've got a lot of his writings, and I think that he was a lot wiser than people give him credit for.
Okay.
Okay.
Good answers. Yeah. All right. So, my favorite founding father is Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. And here's a fun fact for the internet that this is something I would have never shared with you guys, but for the first 24 hours of my existence, my name was Patrick Henry. And my mom hated the name and kept begging my dad to change it. And he finally gave in and said, okay, you pick the name. And she picked Stephen Andrew. But the first 24 hours, I was Patrick Henry.
I'd like to let me just add something that I have one great grandfather named um, Davy Crockett Venturez, and then I have one that's George Washington Venturez. So yes, people love to throw those names in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Concerning the glasses versus the hat argument, the hat seems to be winning in the chat. I just want you guys to know.
Thank you.
Um,
I told them when I started. This is actually an official PBR hat, so it is for the Professional Bull Riders Association. So yes.
so another there is a very tough question on Steven by BBM, which you can take it with a grain of salt. It's not so much about answering it. He just wants to, which I lost. Give me a minute. There's so much. Okay, first off, let me just throw this in. I like this as a balanced comment. The varying religious beliefs of our founding fathers played a role in the establishment of our new country, and they deliberately avoided mentioning any official religion in our constitution, which I think that both sides agree on that. Um, and to BBM's question, where is it? Where are you, BBM?
That is a
Anybody?
wonderful question, by the way. Thank you, audience.
Um, And then another comment, not a question again. America was founded during the height of the Enlightenment. Deism was the closest you could possibly go in terms of being an atheist of any note in America. Calling yourself atheist would have ruined,
Can I reply to that?
yes, would have ruined any chance
No,
anyone would have had of having any political career or note in a time period such as this.
put the
So,
first part back up, and you can comment on it too, Robin. Um, so my reply to this would be: isn't it interesting that at a time of such enlightenment and deism worldwide, not just here in the colonies, all of the language used in the founding documents is undoubtedly Christian themed, not enlightenment or deism. So that's interesting. I think that goes in my favor, Miss Robin.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know particularly what language you're talking about. Like, culturally, yes, but being an atheist was probably like they said, um, sure. Like Thomas Paine actually came out as an atheist with his last book, and he was even socially sort of like even the founders were Enlightenment thinkers did not associate with him after that because of the fact that they just they thought that looked bad. Um, and like I said before, this is pre-Darwin, um, and this is pre any other kind of scientific theory that we have on the origins of the universe or anything like that. So like these they had it, and but Thomas Jefferson did make a quote that says it does me no harm if my neighbor worships 20 gods or none. That was his part. And my cat has just farted. Oh, good.
Okay.
Can we get Jamie in on this? I
Got
think
to get
Jamie has a
well.
question or a statement.
Oh,
Yeah, what like giving examples of how certain church fathers were deists. I just don't know. What does that have to do with what? I guess we could ask what's the title of the debate?
The title of the debate is Was America Founded on Christianity?
Okay, what is Christianity?
Exactly. I defined it as confessing with your mouth and believing in your heart that the Lord came and died for your sins and rose again from the dead.
Right, but what are the Christian? What are like so? What is it? Is the proposition was America founded on like foundational Christian principles? What are Christian principles? Like it really comes down to like I don't disagree with your definition of Christianity, but I would just say like to me separation, like for instance separation of church and state is what America is founded on largely, and I see that in the teachings of Jesus, and I would say Christianity is uh, certainly historically speaking people who follow Jesus, and then I would ask what did Jesus, when the disciples were confused and they were hoping Jesus would take over the Roman Empire, he was like, you guys don't get it. And so I would refer to verses that where Jesus spoke about what true Christian principles are. And so I would go to verses like Matthew 22, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God. And I think you covered it pretty well in your explanation or your defense during the debate, Stephen.
Thank you.
And so it was founded on people being created equal under God, and then not having church and state being mixed. And so they obviously, like you demonstrated or said that um, that under that idea and not having a church over the state, that just seems like that is Christianity. It seems like I would refer to verses where Jesus talks about in Matthew 13 or Matthew 22, freedom of religion. So like the idea of like is a secular. Let me ask you guys this: is a secular state? What's you? I think you asked. Does it have to be a theocracy or a secular state?
Right. My question to Robin was in her opinion, does it have to be founded on strictly one or the other?
And to me, that's like a. If you say yes, then that's missing the whole debate proposition, right? It's not supposed to be a theocracy. So what does it mean to be secular? Well, that's just where the separation of church and state is. But they clearly that the principles of Judeo-Christianity were instantiated from a biblical perspective, which seems like it's the undergirding of what makes America good, what good about our government, our form of government, right?
And see, what I would say is like agree with you, and I don't know how Robin feels, but I would say that a theocracy cannot be truly Christian,
Right.
because the principle of Christianity is submission and not forced persuasion. So I don't see how a theocracy could be a Christian nation. So I think America was founded on the only true way a country could be founded on Christianity, which is freedom, but
Freedom.
with pre assumed Christian language and assumptions.
Yeah,
I
it
would
seems like
say, can I say something?
yeah, Robin. I felt like you. I just want to. Yeah, I do want to hear what you have to say, but it seems like you conceded the debate. I
No,
forget what part it was, but you were like, you said, okay, well, they were basing it on Christian principles.
no, I didn't say that. I do not. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I can't.
A strict.
I
Wait a minute. Let me
you
finish
said
my
I,
sentence, Jamie. Okay, please.
Yep. Let me
Can
finish.
you give me an example of a strictly Christian principle that is a foundation of our republic?
separation of church and state.
How is that a strictly Christian principle?
Well, that's what Jesus taught in Matthew 22. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's.
Okay, that's like, I mean, like that is like really like stretching the meaning of that statement. But okay, but like, are there any like if you look how many
All
The Christian governments that ruled until from the time that Jesus was was crucified until our country was founded, our nation.
yeah, yeah. I
So
think they were apostate. My view is that they were apostate.
okay, but that's like a no true Scotsman fallacy.
Well, no, because Christianity. That's why I tried to show that Christian. That's why I said when I first came in that Christianity truly is based on what Jesus taught. My personal view is that Christianity fairly quickly went apostate, and I think that's actually predicted and shown in the Bible that that was going to happen.
I would agree with you. I think that probably more Christian doctrine now follows Paul than actually, the things that are attributed to Jesus, what he said. So
But I don't think.
I would
But
agree with
we don't
that.
think. Do you think Paul was in contradiction to what Jesus taught? I mean, I don't.
Yes, I do several times.
In
I do.
what way
Well, I
regarding
mean,
this?
like, let's see. I mean, he brought up. Hey, Terry. He brought up. I'm trying to think right now because I'm not a biblical scholar, but I do think that there are several times where he was against um, like the works
Right,
and,
right, right. But
and like,
relating to the subject at hand regarding our issue about what Christianity is regarding true Christian principles and
no,
whether or
but
not they're undergirding the foundation of American policy or founding principles. I understand. I know the controversy between people's false view of what Paul taught in conflict with what Jesus taught. I understand that, but regarding what Jesus was, I would also refer to Matthew 13, right? Where, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Let the wheat and the tares grow up together. So, like whenever Christianity went after heretics or murdering people for their beliefs, I think they were apostate from the teachings of Jesus. And I don't. And regarding those teachings of Jesus, Paul certainly didn't say anything that goes against that teaching.
okay, but do you think that Jesus um, considered people who did not believe in Yahweh and Him as going to hell?
Sure.
Okay, well then I would say that is not actually freedom of choice. Like that is like extortion. Actually,
Well,
like I mean, like I'm not here to like. I actually chose not to bash Christianity because that's not what our goal was. But like the reason why our founders selected a government that did not involve Christianity is because of these very arguments, these very differences, and these very opinions that are so vast among even this one religion. And then you've got people of other religions too. But like
but
Christians
Rob,
have
let me
never
let me
been
just
able to
let me
agree.
respond to the hell thing. I don't think that really gets down to the conversation of the proposition because the idea that in this life that we're able to judge people or force them to do anything is different from whether or not what people's eternal fate is. I don't believe God tortures people in hell but that's a totally different subject. I believe people uh, will be granted eternal life or not at the end of the age when Jesus judges them, which is saying, vengeance is mine, says God. That happens at the end of the world. And he's the teaching in Matthew 13 there is that that's not for us to do. So anytime anyone tries to burn people at the stake or force upon them, like Stephen said, we don't, we treat, it's a spiritual submission to the moral principles of God. We don't force that on people. That is what Christianity is supposed to be, according to the teachings of Jesus. So yeah, Christianity did all sorts of things in the name of Christ, but we have to look at, well, what does the religion teach, and what the Christianity was historically. The reason we're called Christians is because we follow or imitate Christ, and then we can ask, what did Christ teach and do? And I can give many examples like I did in Matthew 13 and Matthew 22, where anytime anybody doesn't do that, that's not real Christianity, because real Christianity is doing what Jesus taught. And I agree that Christianity at large, and what people want to do with Christian nationalism in many cases, or what has happened historically, isn't actually what Jesus taught. In fact, it's absolutely against it.
I agree with. I mean, like, yeah, I think he said, "My kingdom is not of this world." That
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
in my argument. But I want to say though that you do know that you do realize that you are in the minority of like
Sure.
Christian belief,
That's
and
fair.
and so like my argument is that's why the founders chose to create a government that was not founded on the principles of one religion, because like then they would have to decide which principles were actually, that would be their job to decide what principles were actually the actual principles of Christianity and which ones were the false ones. And I don't think that they felt that they had any knowledge to do that. I think that they rejected the ideal of revelation from God to man, except through studying nature. And so they did not. They were not. Especially they very few of them
What do you
were
think all
particularly.
men are created equal? Oh, this last thing I'll say, and then I'll hand it back to you guys. I would just say the Judea. That's why we call it Judeo. The idea that we're made in God's image, which is, all men are created equal, is where that comes from, and I think that is like a huge deal. And so I'll just say that's why I think the separation of church and state is inherently Christian and in line with what Jesus was teaching. And anytime Christianity went astray from that, they were actually apostate. And so that's why I think, in that sense, that you agree with that is why I said, in a sense, you conceded the debate, in the sense that I understand Christian principles, but I understand everybody doesn't agree with what Christian principles look like. So that's fair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, Achilles is going to have to be back in a moment, so I'm scrolling through the
B,
comments to see if
uh,
there's any good ones.
BBM has a question that they keep bringing up. I don't know what.
I can't find his question, and I promise I was just looking for it. And I've asked him like 4 times if he would repost his question. So I hope he does
Terry, do
that.
you know what his question was?
But the panel's open. If you guys have a quick question, just come in real quick, ask your questions of us, and
And Terry had a question too. So have you done
okay.
Terry's question?
Um, mm,
Terry may have to post it again.
yeah, Mark is out there, and
Christian
Robin,
Life.
what's the story with the after show?
It's going to be at Yerba Mate Talks, which is Max.
Can you
But it's going to.
drop me the link in
I think
Messenger?
I thought I sent it to you, didn't I?
You
Did I
may
not?
have. You may have.
I'm
I'm
not on my
extremely
phone, but
unorganized.
it is going to be very short because Modern Day Debate is having a debate over the Renee Good shooting tonight, and they're going to do an after show on it too. And there's Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hello, how you doing?
I appreciate you coming.
Hey, I got up really early, Robin. I
I
won't lie.
know.
Very, very early. That's
Very-
okay. It was worth it. It was definitely worth it. You did fantastic. Just, yeah, obviously I'm biased, but you did fantastic.
Yes.
Um, I did have a question for you. Do you agree with what was the previous guy's name? Was it Jamie
Jamie?
was the previous guy? Right. Okay. So do you agree with him that separation of church and state was drawn from the Bible and Christianity as a foundation for the United States?
No, my opinion would be that separation
No.
of church and state was a protection mechanism to protect the government from having its hands on religion, right? Because we were trying to escape the Church of England.
Where do you think that principle came from? Do you have a stance on where that principle came from?
The separation of church and state.
Hmm.
Well, it had always been a wet dream of Thomas Jefferson's.
Oh God. Good language.
I
Good.
mean, I'll be honest, and Thomas Jefferson was one of the most outspoken of the founding fathers. He was very blunt, and it was no secret that he was a deist, right? He even had the Jefferson Bible.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, are you familiar with John Locke?
Yeah, a little, not as much as
Okay.
the main founders.
He. What do you mean? He wasn't a
He's
founder.
not
He
he's
was.
not as big as George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, James Madison. He's
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 not a
not
he's
he's
not a
not
founding.
on that level.
He's not
He's
a
not a.
founding father.
He's not
Oh,
a founding
see,
father.
there you
He's
go.
He's a philosopher.
he's an Enlightenment philosopher
Yeah.
from France, I believe. Was it French philosopher? He wrote a letter concerning toleration, and it was basically outlining exactly that principle of limited government, that the government should be secular while the religious belief should be voluntary for whatever the population decides. So that was, the separation of church and state can be traced back to exactly John Locke, and John Locke was one of the philosophers that the founding fathers were reading and drawing upon. So when it's clearly
When you look,
outlined,
hold on one moment.
yeah, sure.
So when we look at the founding documents in any language across all of them, do we see more reference to a biblical God or John Locke?
Well, they don't reference the founding documents. I mean, the Constitution.
No, the Constitution not as much as the Declaration of Independence.
But the
Why
Declaration is
Declaration of
not a founding
Independence?
document. Like
It's not.
it doesn't
It's
found
our farewell address to England.
it's
Some could say
Right,
that's the founding document of
but it
all the
right,
doesn't
and
founding
it
documents.
doesn't found any kind of system of government.
it doesn't.
It just it just ends our relationship.
It begins our government. It
Well, no, it
separates us
doesn't.
from England. It signs the divorce paper and it says we're now doing it ourselves. In the Constitution, we see examples of how we were going to do it ourselves.
Well, but
Well,
the Declaration of Independence is dealing with colonies. Um,
yes,
and it doesn't it's speaking for just for colonies, and
yep,
so it's not there's like it doesn't found like we have a
a
federal
nation.
government founded in the Constitution.
Sure, but you disagree that that is like the unifying document that rallied all of the colonies together as one?
I
No,
agree.
it's
I
simply a
agree.
document speaking for the colonies and telling England that the colonies are no longer its control. It doesn't actually found anything as a singular nation as the United States actually is. It just says that the colonies are no longer under English control. And I would argue that because the crown was based upon divine right, adding in a lot of divine kind of stuff was speaking to them as we have the authority to break away from you. And so it may have been influenced by that. But when it comes to the founding of the United States, the nation, it's definitely the Constitution is the founding document. There's no question about it.
But the thing about it is you bring up the Declaration of Independence. Actually, the Declaration of Independence actually like does reference John Locke, almost
Oh, does it?
almost verbatim, because it life, liberty, and it says in pursuit of happiness. But John Locke's philosophy was property. the right to own
Right.
property. So
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
there's almost a verbatim mention of Locke in the
Okay.
Declaration.
I will say this. I will say this. They mention Locke the same amount of times as they mention Jesus. Okay. I'll say that.
Well, not if you're mentioning the colonial charters. That that amount would be totally
I don't.
disproportionate on our side.
What does the colonies have to do with the foundation of the nation? Like we've got there's a fallacy called it's like a fallacy that's sort of, you can't apply the same things to the overall as you do to
The genetic
the
is
single
it
thing.
genetic
No,
or
no, 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 no. It's a
equivocation? Maybe.
division composition fallacy.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't, like, just because me as a human can flick a light switch, it doesn't mean the bits of me can flick a light switch, right? We can't say, hey, because the individual parts were founded upon certain principles, the entire thing must be founded on those principles. That doesn't follow.
Can I chime in? Can the moderator take part in the Q&A?
Yes, yes. Please, you are relieved of
Of duties. Okay.
your unbiased participation. How about
Uh,
that?
okay. I have one quick remark, not pun intended. No, nothing with this mark, but I have a quick remark on what Jamie said. I think his point was, before I went to feed my dogs and cat, I think his point had to do with the fact that the fact that this nation was based upon the separation of church and state makes it directly opposed to other nations where the religion itself is mandating who goes to jail or not. Like you mentioned, the pagan Greeks, like they were not Christian yet. And indeed, if you were blasphemous against the gods, you would be put to death like Socrates. And we have the Muslim nations where, whenever there is a new Muslim nation, there is zero separation between church and state. The Sharia law is always in place. So, in a sense, that is also another indicator. All right, if it's not evidence, it is just an indicator that separation of church and state is part of the Christian doctrine. Then I had a question which I didn't plan, but I found it very funny, interestingly funny, because that word can have so many meanings.
Can I respond to that for a second, Achilles?
Oh,
Because
yes,
you're kind of
yes.
moving on. Like, I don't understand how it follows that that's Christian doctrine. How did you tie it into Christianity because the ancient Greeks were doing something?
I compared it to Greeks, pagan Greece. I compared because Robin brought it up earlier that the foundations were they looked upon um, other societies like the Greeks and the Romans, and
Well,
I
yeah,
just
but not for all of the philosophy, right? The democracy had its start in ancient Greece. You know, that's where it doesn't mean they brought all principles over.
of course not. But indeed, you could not. There was no separation of church and state in the sense that exists today. And if we see it today, we see it in Christian nations. We do not see it in Muslim nations. We don't see it in Hinduistic nations.
Separation
So
of church and state.
yes,
Yeah, we see it in secular nations.
in
That's
secular
what secular.
nations there is no
Yeah.
church. So of course you would see it
No,
there.
no, that's not what secular means. In atheist nations, there's no church. In
Okay.
secular nations, secular means religion independent. It doesn't mean no religion. So,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
like for instance, Norway is a secular state. Secular does not mean anti-religion. It does not mean that at all. It just means religion has no power over it, or it
Okay.
shouldn't have any
Okay.
power
Thanks.
over it.
thanks for that clarification. But the point that I was making is that what Jamie was trying to say is that the Bible does advocate for that, because as Stephen said earlier, you're supposed to become a Christian by your own choice and not because somebody forces it upon you, right? So that is not the case with pagan Greece or with Muslim nations today. That does this freedom does exist more in the Christian side of religion.
Well, in Achilles, separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. Like, show me the phrase where it appears in the Constitution. It says, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or
Yes.
prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It,
Yes.
one, prevents a national church, and two, it protects the free exercise of religion.
Well, it doesn't just prevent a national church, it prevents somebody from being evaluated into the government based upon their religious beliefs. And that is the separation of church and state.
Yeah, but the phrase comes from one of Thomas Jefferson's letters.
Yes, and that was heavily influenced by John Locke. But I want to get back to Achilles'
wait,
points.
and I just want to add too that James Madison was a staunch separation of church and state person too. James Madison was. Yes.
Before you do, Mark, may I throw in the question towards?
I want to get back to what you were saying earlier, because you said, well, real Christians aren't doing this forced conversion, but at the time they were. Most notably the Puritans that we were discussing, like they were burning people if they didn't convert to their kind of religion. So,
but wait. But they were also burning people if they had a Bible. And they didn't go by the Bible that the church had, and they had their own. They were burning them on the stake with their Bible. So what does that mean?
Yep.
Not in the United States.
No, of course not.
We're talking about in the United States. Like,
no, on the point that Mark just made, I'm saying that the Catholic Church did that, but you can go ahead and ask me and Stephen and any other Christian if we consider that to be Christian. No, so don't compare to what they've done.
No, but we're talking about the United States.
If you let me finish, it's just you've claimed, or at least Stephen's claimed during the debate, that hey, a majority of the population were Christian. You can't claim that a majority of the population are Christian and then say, but this section of them weren't Christian because they weren't doing Christian things. If you want to,
I don't believe that claim was made. When was that claim made?
You pointed out that 99 point something of the percentage of the population at the time were Christian.
98% of the population at that time, and you can go back to my first slide, I could pull it up if you want, were evangelical Christians, what we would categorize today. Only like 4% were church attending, tithable, documented churchgoers. And the reason is that came along with a lot of scrutiny from your very staunch and stuck-up Christian neighbors. Whenever you were part of the church and you joined like that, all of your business was out there, and you would get criticized and chastened by the community. So a lot of Christians in that time did not join congregations locally.
Yes,
okay, but
that is
a
correct.
lot did. There were a fair few that did,
Yeah,
and there
4%.
were Quakers. There were 4%? I don't think it was that low, part of a congregation. I'd like to see a citation on that.
I believe I had that source on my opening slides as well. Feel free to go back and dissect this on your show and make me look
4%.
stupid.
I think it's more about 20 or so. 20%?
No, it was much lower. By 1776, it was at its peak low.
So okay, let's.
I guess what I'm pointing out is you're sort of saying, hey, like we're evaluating Christians by what we think they are today, and not what the actual population of Christians were doing at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Quakers, they were pacifists, they really didn't fight, but the Puritans, they went round torturing people, mutilating people, imprisoning people. They really did persecute everybody around them, and for religious reasons.
Yes.
No, but and if that was my point, I would totally agree with you. However, that's kind of a straw man of what my point was. My point is that in actuality, about 98% of our population identified as Christian, but estimates show that only roughly 4% of the population were church attending tithable parishioners. There's totally different argument.
Is a okay.
I was covering my bases in case Robin was going to point out that 4% ratio for 1776.
No, I checked that. I checked your numbers because you actually like gave me that argument the other day before we had the debate. So you like spilled some of the beans on what you were going to say. So I checked your numbers, and that is correct. You were right. That is what it said. Um,
No more favors, Robin.
but well, I did. I was like, hey, way to go. But one thing I wanted to say is, like, if you judge it by that way, 98% back then. Okay, what is the percentage now of
As far as 2005, I think the most accurate calculation was 60 to 65%.
I think it's far lower now. 2005. That's 20 years ago. Let's
No,
look
I'm sorry. I thought that 2025. Now maybe
because
it's changed, but I'm pretty sure it was 60%.
I know that 49% of Americans in last year claimed that religion played no important part of their life. That didn't mean they weren't Christian. You know, like a lot of people say, I'm a Christian just because I grew up in Christian home or whatever. So by that thing, if you think that like Christianity, when our population falls down below 50% of Christians, you know, I mean, do you not want like the reason why we have separation of church and state is to protect you, even when you're the minority religion. Like, so if the population ever drops down to 20% religion or Christian, Christians would still be protected under the law, which is not, you know, like that's not what the Christian nationalism is seeking to create for the
But
rest of us.
but Robin, if I could answer that question with this question is isn't it true that these Christians will always be protected under the laws that were created by overwhelmingly Christians?
I don't know. They weren't overwhelming Christians. That's what I'm saying.
The vast majority of the
The
laws were
laws of
created by
Christian.
Christian men.
But that doesn't mean they were founded upon Christianity. That's my point.
Yeah.
That
Well,
doesn't mean
they're
to say they're
Christian
founded upon
influenced
Christianity.
laws to protect citizens from rights that they're endowed by a creator. I mean, what other language would you need, Mark?
Creator is not necessarily Christian. A lot of them were deist. That's the
Would
whole point.
No,
Number
not a
two is
lot
that
of them, just several of them.
No,
Not a lot of them.
several of them, some
Several,
of them.
not a lot.
yes, there was a lot of deists. Like a lot of deists, and even like they say George Washington was a Christian, but like I said, told you, he refused communion. They were even the ones that attended Christian church, different Christian churches, like Unitarian was considered Christian back then too. Unitarians, most of them rejected miracles. They
And
rejected
and
the ideal of miracles. They rejected the ideal of the Trinity. They
right,
rejected the ideal
Unitarians.
of, and they especially rejected the revelation of the Bible. Most of them did.
And I got to say, a lot of these ideas you can trace back to Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke, like Voltaire, Rousseau. You can trace
Montesquieu,
them to, sorry,
Montesquieu.
Montesquieu. Yeah, Montesquieu. Right. And you can trace them back directly to there, which had this idea of liberalism, separation of church and state, and sort of life, liberty, and property, which sort of had this respect for these things, and that is what we call a secular nation. The fact that there was a lot of Christian people and their morals were probably based upon Christian teachings doesn't mean that is the foundation for the nation's founding document. It doesn't.
I want to say
Anyway, I'm going to bow out.
Okay.
Just Robin, you did
Thank you, Mark.
fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll let
I
Stephen
agree.
respond.
I
however
think
he wants.
Robin did fantastic.
I just have one thing too.
You both
Is,
do great, guys.
we were like founded as like it's not in our law or whatever, but like we are a capitalist society, right?
I
And
think we're a democratic republic.
yeah, I know like our government is, yes, but I mean like our society, our economic system is capitalist. It has always been capitalist, probably since the founders and everything were capitalists, and capitalism directly violates the 10th commandment. which is thou shalt not covet your neighbor's stuff, which is
How does
exactly.
capitalism?
Yeah.
So I was going to explain that. Um, the prime mover of capitalism is to create something and you popularize it amongst the people. And so I buy this car, and my neighbors look at there and they're like, "Oh, I love that car. I want to go get me one of those cars." So to me,
But
that
that's not
that's very
coveting. That's not coveting.
it is coveting. Like if you look at
Yep.
something and want something, like it doesn't say stealing, it's coveting.
Ma-
So
um, the foundation of capitalism is aristocracy. The fact that the more you get to work, the more money you can earn, and you can buy individually from your neighbor, separated from your neighbor, as much stuff as you want. Okay, now if your neighbor gets a better car, in capitalism you can have it, while in communism it's different and
we're not
it's
talking about
socialism, right?
communism,
Well,
though.
Yeah.
if I could respond, um,
All right, I
w-
just want to say this one thing. The definition of covet is yearn to possess or have something.
right,
Okay.
the Bible says to not covet your neighbor.
Your neighbor's property, your neighbor's
Right.
your neighbor's
But
ass, your
that's
neighbor's
not the same
wife,
thing
your
here.
neighbor's
And we see in Proverbs 31, God gives us the design for the perfect wife. And some of the attributes of what God thinks is the perfect wife is that she makes products. It talks about making belts, and she makes things, and she earns things with the labor of her own hands, and she trades them for an increase, and she puts money away in savings. Like, these things are not anti-Christian. These are things that God says is smart for his people.
Yeah. God also said you would find your wives at all four corners of the earth, and then He made the globe round. That's all I got to say about
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Mm,
okay.
okay.
that.
Now I do have one question for you,
All right.
which I did not plan. As you guys both know, first off, you both did great. You were very respectful to one another.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Um,
it.
and as somebody who is not from or in the US, I learned a lot today. So I hope the viewers earned as much. And as you were guys going on, one thing that I do is that I do listen to streams every night of people discussing and having something that I know that they're not going to start shouting, so I can sleep over it. So a week ago, I heard a quote from a founding father, and I made a note of that because I knew there was going to be a debate in on this subject, and I never even thought about bringing it up. But then you said that that was your favorite founding father,
John Adams, yes, and yeah,
and wasn't John Adams the one who said our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people? It
yes,
is wholly inadequate to the government of any other.
yes. I explained this. Like our founding fathers thought that like the average American or average colonist was not educated in the classical philosophy and political and morality of like their education was like
But
so
if
they thought that religion was necessary for common people to
Uh,
keep them moral.
but now
Equally,
I but
morality. Go ahead.
Very
but
condescending.
in Robin's defense, Americans are peculiar in this way. Because if you were to ask me who my two favorite founders were, it would have been Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson. I love Thomas Jefferson, but he was in no way, shape, or form a good Christian guy. He was absolutely a deist, even if he had a lot of Christian influence. So it's a weird dynamic because Americans can appreciate the founders for their, beliefs and what they got on paper, and disagree with their, spiritual opinions.
Yeah, you can hardly judge all of the founders words in public. First of all, they're public words because they spoke differently in public than they did in private. That's why I said I have like their writings. I have a lot of their writings myself, of their private writings, like the writings between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams after they both got out of the presidency, and where they became much more like open about how they viewed things. But you cannot. So but they were speaking to religious in public. They were speaking to Christian people, and they used like we often like a lot of atheists will often bring up the mustached man and like pop off about his Christian his Christian stuff. And I disagree with that. He was not a Christian. Like I do
Who's
not.
the mustache man?
I believe he
No.
was not a Christian. I mean, I've studied like what the philosophy of the party was at that time, and they despised Christianity. Actually, those originators of that religion, that political thing, and so I do not say that he was a Christian, but he was speaking to Christians. Most of the people, the German people, were Christians, and so he would use
Ah,
language.
okay. It took me a minute to understand who is the
Yes,
mustache
he
man.
would
Now I
use
got it.
language,
Okay, I
even
got
though
it.
he did not. Even though he
No, yes, you are
despised
right.
Christianity,
You are
he
right, and that one
yeah,
exploited
yeah.
religion, as I think it's being done today as well. But I do not think that that was the case back in the founding of the state of the United States. I think they were more honest, reflecting the values that they were trying to create. And I found that quote very interesting as somebody outside the US who is participating in the middle of this argument, that that was a statement from that specific founding father who spoke about a nation built under morality and religion. I just
I know.
found it a little interesting.
I just like I said, if you read their personal writings, you understand that they spoke differently. Um, and like men were men. Men have been lying for like how many years? Thousands. Like I'm not talking about just men, but like humans have and people who are trying to encourage people to follow them. So like we were trying to get people to unite under this constitution, and so they're going to speak the language of the people, even regardless of their personal beliefs. And yeah, I want to say I did not. No, I do not think that he was an atheist either. He had some very peculiar beliefs on religion, but he was not a Christian. He definitely on the mustache man I'm talking about. I don't want to say his name on here, but
Yeah, okay.
can I say something about the after show because I they all
Yeah, go ahead.
because there's going to be an after show and Stephen, you're welcome to come on for a little bit. It's going to be on Yerba Mate Talks, and Max is going to have to cut it short, like 8:30 or 9 o'clock or something like that, maybe earlier. I don't know, because he has got another debate on modern day debate to do, um, but if you're welcome to come over there, Stephen, if you want to, and shill your channel, and everybody that's here for me to see me, please like Stephen's stream, and if you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to his channel, and I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you very much.
And Robin, I'll just say in closing, this was my first official debate, and
Mine
I
too.
really enjoyed it. And we should talk in Messenger and figure out what our second debate should be on.
Beaver.
Feminism. Remember that was the second part of your post that I had trouble with was the feminism part. Remember?
Right? Yeah. But I think if you listen to me on the streams, a lot of the ultra conservatives would probably consider me more libertarian.
Yes, I would say you are. Y'all both know that one thing that I have always thought liked y'all about. So some of y'all's political positions are compared to a lot of them that I around us now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for coming to do this debate, Robin, and you guys all have a great night. Achilles, any
Yes,
any thoughts?
Thank you guys, especially both of you for making a moderator's job so easy. I wish all debates were as respectful, because I will be moderating more.
I wish I had I wish I had a way to like everybody might post Max's link in um
Um,
If you have it,
yeah,
post it in the comments on YouTube, and I'll pin it for a moment.
until the chat goes off when the
see I'm
stream
not
is
I'm
done.
not on I'm not on I wasn't open. That's why I was
Can you throw the link here in the private chat and we can throw it up there?
I gotta find it. That's why.
Well, and
Ah,
they're mirroring the show on Kentucky Atheist's channel, so you could probably go over there to get the link.
okay.
Well, I've got it right here. Let's see.
Hey, what's up, Kentucky?
I was thinking I thought send it to you on. Um,
Let me check for you, Robin. I'll see what
Oh,
I've got.
we did not address the result of the poll, which I haven't even checked so
maybe I
far. Did you?
didn't. I guess I didn't.
Okay, I don't see
Okay.
the result. Stephen, you saw it?
No, what is it? How bad did we lose?
When I voted, it was on a 51-49. I can't even tell you which one was winning because that's not a victory.
The
But
last,
uh,
well, hold on. Actually, I might be able to see it.
yeah, I don't know. I probably dismissed it so I could keep an eye out on the chat. So I don't have it anymore here.
All right. Hold on.
No, the poll is 36% yes and 64% no.
Okay.
That's what it currently is. And there was 50 votes in the poll. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you guys.
guys. That
Thank you.
gives us a good square number to deal with, and that says we are doing bad, Christians.
I'm trying to find. I'm almost
Well, I
there.
think
I'm
I
almost
think
there.
the answer no is addressing the theocratic part, and I think you've answered to this.
Hey,
So
there we go. Let's Farm says they have the link. Can you post it in the
I just
no.
posted it. I
comments?
just put it in chat.
Okay. I would have to make a moderator.
There
Let's
you go.
farm because you can't post. But
I put
okay.
it. I
Yeah.
got it in there. I got it in there.
Okay.
But it's
So everybody, thank you for being around. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Somebody from the other side of the planet. So we'll see you on the next one. Thank you guys,
thank y'all.
and I'll see you soon.